I guess one positive thing about being interrupted during a video multiple times is that you can start over and do a new take and maybe make a better video than your awkward stumbling that you were doing in the first take. Why am I here today? You may ask yourself that same question. Why am I here? I am here because I did something I told myself I wasn't going to do. I picked up Into the Borderlands, the original Adventures Reincarnated by Goodman Games. This is a series of, early on anyway, this is a series of old Dungeons & Dragons scenarios that they have reprinted and then done 5e, 5th edition, whatever, updates for. In the reprints, sometimes, like in the case of this one, they've reprinted each book more than once, different print runs, and there are a whole bunch of articles and little essays written about them, so that for somebody who's a little bit more into the history of the game, there's, I'm sure, information that they would be able to enjoy more than I have any particular interest in. Why wasn't I going to pick this up? Well, because I have no nostalgia whatsoever for Keep on the Borderlands, or certainly In Search of the Unknown. I've never played either of these. Keep on the Borderlands, I've heard a great deal about. It gets talked about a lot. It was apparently, for many people, an introductory scenario, and so they have a great deal of nostalgia for it. I do not. I played Dungeons & Dragons much later. I had already been into tabletop RPGs for quite some time. And when I played Dungeons & Dragons, I hated it. Just, that's, you know, I know I've mentioned it in previous videos. Some of you who've been watching will no doubt be sick of me saying that, but it's true. I hated the game. I never enjoyed it. I have now played, I think, just about every edition except for 4th edition. And I'm not 100% sure I played 1st edition AD&D. But I've played pretty much every other version of the game, and I have come away with the same thing. I just don't think it's a good game. I really genuinely don't. And more specifically, I think that if... I genuinely don't think it's a very good game. But if I were to play devil's advocate and say it is well-designed, which I don't think that it is, but if I were to say that it is well-designed, it is designed to facilitate a type of gaming that I just don't like. Anyhow, getting back to why I picked this up. One big reason, I found this for a ridiculously low price. Now, how much value can you put on something if you don't, have this interest? Now, I do have some interest in, particularly in the 5e conversion of this, just to see what I can lift from it to use for some Dungeon Crawl Classics gaming that I might do. I will read through it, see if there are things that I like and that I want to take from it. Perhaps just using the keep. Perhaps there's a monster in it that I like. I don't know. And we'll see. I'm less interested in the reprints of the original versions, and I'm not particularly interested in the historic essays. I will almost certainly read through them just to give them a look, but it's not, again, because I have no nostalgia for it, I have no real connection to it. I don't care that much about the scenario's history, and I've absorbed enough D&D history from various online sources that I get the general gist of how things came about. Anyhow, I do like some of the maps, and I am curious again about the 5e conversion, so I will take a look through that. I find that 5e stuff is usually pretty easy to convert over to Dungeon Crawl Classics. And certainly the format is much nicer to read than the old like typeface or whatever that I've never found particularly appealing. The formatting in this is much nicer and easier to read. So I'll give it a go. The other thing is that I like the original Adventures Reincarnated series. I'm annoyed that I missed out on the two of the ones that I was most interested in. I was basically most interested in Expedition of the Barrier Peak, The Lost City, and Isle of Dread, and I just didn't have any money. And then Isle of Dread and Lost City went out of print sort of without warning, and I was not able to scrounge up the money before they went out of print. They went out of print and immediately were on ridiculous collector prices on the secondary market. So I didn't get those two. And I'm still frustrated by that. I know because of Wizards of the Coast and what they are and how they behave, it seems highly likely. As far as I don't know if there was ever an official announcement made. Goodman Games doesn't really talk about these that I can find. They just seem to have made them, and then like they weren't available on their website. They were only available on Amazon, and then they just sort of stopped talking about them at all. And I'm sure that dealing with Wizards of the Coast was not fun. So chances are those books will never be reprinted, which is aggravating because I did want to pick those up for my collection, but that's not going to happen because I'm not paying $300 for one of these things. I mean, I got a really sweet deal on this. I got a pretty sweet deal on that. I paid way less than cover price for either of these two, and I mean way less. I'm certainly not going to be paying $300 for a book that I will probably read, absorb, take a handful of things from, and then move on, which is what I plan to do with this. And I know that this is, from what I have seen, this has a lot of the shortcomings of early TSR, where it's because that game was made for kicking in doors, stealing everything that wasn't nailed down, and killing all the things that were wandering around. That's what it was. It was essentially a video game before video games were really a thing. And I don't like that. I'm not a big video game player, and I don't want to do that when I'm playing a tabletop RPG. So anyhow, I'll see how the Goodman Games version of this is. This was the first of the original Adventures Reincarnated, and I think they were learning a lot, and I think some of the later ones maybe are better books generally. And it seems like the series will continue, at least for now, but they are moving on to doing some of the Judges Guild stuff that they acquired the rights to. I don't know how that all worked. Judges Guild, they were putting out modules before TSR really was, because they realized that that's something people needed. And Judges Guild had a lot of the same problems that TSR stuff did. When you read through City State of the Invincible Overlord, for example, it's just kind of bad. It's a really cool, like, the city is kind of amazing, the map is amazing, the idea of the city is amazing. I think there's a lot you could do with that, and it's why I would love to see them do an update. Now that they're doing Judges Guild, they can do Dungeon Crawl Classics updates instead of just TSR or D&D updates. I would love to see a beautifully updated version of City State of the Invincible Overlord. What is it? Wraith Overlord, the sewer supplement. There's another big city-state that they have too. Excuse me. And I would love to see that. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know what the whole rights situation is with Goodman Games and Judges Guild. I don't know if they own it. I don't know if they just license it. I don't know what was going on. I know there was a problem with the folks from Judges Guild, or some of the folks from Judges Guild. I don't know. But whatever the case, that seems to be the way they're going. They're moving away from working with Wizards of the Coast, which I understand. I mean, I wouldn't want to work with Wizards of the Coast. I wouldn't have wanted to work with them 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I really wouldn't want to work with them now. They seem kind of terrible. I don't know if you've heard, but anyway. So I'll check this out. I'll give it a read at some point. I'll see what I can get from it. If it has anything that I can use, great. If it doesn't, well, I'm sure somebody else out there will be really interested in it, and I will move it along to someone else. Anyway, that's what I've got today. I didn't even really look at the art while I was flipping through this. I had mentioned in my previous version of this video, which I had to scrap, that I believe someone out there took the Caves of Chaos and broke them up so that there were multiple mini dungeons that you could spread throughout a wilderness area instead of having all the Caves of Chaos be connected in one little valley. And I kind of thought that idea was cool. I like that. Thought that idea was cool, so I might try to track that down and see if that's a resource I can find online. Because again, it's my own problem with a lot of the old modules. Why are all these things living together? And I know there's like some vague reason, but it just never worked for me. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Until next time, if you enjoy rambling videos where I talk about rando stuff, then here you go. There's more. Like and subscribe, and you can enjoy more of my amazing content. Sometimes I'm even mostly awake. Sometimes. Until next time, take care.